Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We're gonna read today an example, the beginning of the Surah Al-Baqarah, with all that we have learned, in addition to a couple of more tips. Let's start here. First, this we read last time. This is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. One thing is, usually when we stop at the end of an ayah, whenever we stop at the end of an ayah is for a lack of another translation, it's a verse. The actual translation of the word ayah is sign. But in the Bible, for example, they call a sentence a verse, or, so whenever you see a number, this is a number. This is the end of an ayah and the end of a sign. So whenever you get to the end of the ayah, you're stopping. And whenever you stop, we should be actually making sukoon on the last letter. So we should be making the last letter a silent letter. So if I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and I stop, I don't say Rahimi unless I intend to keep going with the same breath to the next ayah. Okay? Now, in here, there's this ayah where we have these letters without any accents, without any harakat. There's no harakat, no accents, no fatha, no kasra, no dhamma. How do we pronounce these letters? In reality, there's 29 surahs in the Quran that start with such letters, okay? And these letters are called al-huruf al-muqatta'a. Al-huruf al-muqatta'a or al-huruf al-nuraniyya. There are 14 letters. So 14 out of 28 letters are used sometimes to start surahs in the Quran, and they don't have any accents, so we don't pronounce them like we usually do. The way they're pronounced is by reading their names, how their names are pronounced. So this is an alif. I actually wrote in Arabic how each one should be pronounced. So this is alif. So when you see it, you actually read alif. The ha is ha, so it's a prolonged ha. The ra is ra. The sa that we usually say sa, si, su, it's seen. That's the name of this letter, seen. So we avoided teaching you the names of the letter in the beginning of our course because, as you can see, it might be a little confusing, seen, and when you pronounce it, you say sa, su, si. So I delayed this till the end. So this is seen. This is sad. This is ta. Actually, we're missing an alif. I made a mistake here. Sorry. This is ta. There's an alif, ta, prolonged ta. Ain. Qaf. Kaf. Lam. Mim. Noon. Ha. Ya. So you have to memorize these letters. There's no other way. You have to memorize how they're pronounced, their names. So there's 14 out of the 28. And that's how we read these when we get to them in the Quran. So we say alif, lam, mim. That's how you read this sign, this ayah. This is how you read it. Alif, lam, mim. Now we move on to the next one. ذَلِكَ. So just so that also I remind myself and remind you, always before we start reading the Quran, what we should do is always say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to do in the Quran. So I should have started with that. So I say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, ألف لام ميم, ذلك. We have a bridge, so I will say ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى. So the alif as if it doesn't exist because we have a tanween here. هدى للمتقين. Because I'm stopping, this is the end of an ayah, we'll transform this to a sukoon. متقين. Now here's another thing. This is a bridge. So if I said متقين الذين, if I jumped from this to the la, I ignore this alif, right? And then we jump from na to la, straight to na. متقين الذين. So you can read merging two ayahs together. However, if you decide to stop at the end of the ayah, you have to make this one sukoon, للمتقين. And then when you start this one, now this one is no longer bridging anything together because it is now the first letter. Since we're still at our first stage, we're going to always simplify it. I'm not going to tell you the rule about this, but always replace it by a hamza. So now it would be الذين يؤمنون jumping again, بالغيب ويقيمون نص, right? From na to sa. Nassolata. Realize here we have two letters on top of each other. The alif is a small letter, but it's still a letter above the waw. So it's as if the waw is canceled. We read the alif. So let's go back from here. ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. We said anytime there is a noon without anything on top or below, you have to assume there's a sukoon. They did that to help you with your tajweed rules, something you'll take in the higher class. Another thing I wanted to talk about. Look at this here. Let me try to highlight it for you. This and compared to this. Sometimes the la right after this, the alif, has a sukoon, so we pronounce dhalikal kitabu. And sometimes the la doesn't have anything on top of it, and we actually skip it. And I'm just gonna quickly go through the rule of that. In this case, it is called lam al-qamariya, the lunar lam, lunar. lunar lam, and this is lam shamsiya, the solar lam. Okay. The reason why this is pronounced, this is not pronounced, is the letter right after it. So whenever you have an alif and a lam at the beginning of the word, an alif and a lam, it depends on the next letter if the lam is pronounced or not. Now for our class, it doesn't matter. I'm just giving you extra information why sometimes there's a sukoon and sometimes there's not. For us, whenever we see the la with sukoon, we say, so we pronounce it. And whenever we don't see anything like here, we ignore it. So for reading purposes, it's easy. We just do just like I said. We pronounce this one, we ignore this one. But to understand a little bit more what's behind it, there's actually a set of letters. So the letters are divided between sun letters and moon letters, or solar letters and lunar letters. And they're divided in half, meaning 14 of them are here and 14 of them are here. These letters are the solar and these are the lunar. And the tip is all the solar letters, when they come after the la, they have shadda with them. Okay, they come up with shadda. And you ignore the la. And that's how we are using also the tip that we're using to pronounce our la. Every time there's a shadda right after the la, it's ignored. That's what happened here. Every time there's a shadda, the la is ignored, and that's why they didn't put any accent or on top or below. So we do not pronounce it. Let's keep going with our reading. I'm going to start with here again. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة. So here, B jumping to la, and after the la, let's read from right to left. There's the la, there's the hamza, and then there's the alif. 3 letters back to back. So bil akhirati. The hamza, notice that the hamza here is between the lam and the alif. Sometimes the hamza is, this one is put right here, and that would make it on top of the alif, and that would make it only one letter, right? It will be an a only. In here, it's a hamza followed by an alif. It's not a hamza on top of the alif, okay? If it's on top, it would have been right here. Again, wa bil akhirati hum yuqinun. This symbol we talked about that in the Quran, that means you ignore this letter. Anytime you see the symbol, that means this letter is ignored. So we are not going to extend the u. This is ignored as if it's not there. So we say u la ika a la hudan ignore the shadda. Min, ignore the shadda because these shaddas are at the beginnings of words. The min is a word, rabbihim is a word. We'll learn in the next class, tajweed class, how do we start with that. Min rabbihim wa ulaika humul muflihun. So by now you should be able to read almost everything in the Quran. The only thing that I skipped telling you about are a couple of stops. This one is one of them. This, when you see these two signs, it's very rare that you're going to see these in the Quran. It means when you're reading, you can either stop at this word or at this word, but you cannot stop at both. So I read ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ. I can stop here, and after I stop, I pick it up from here and keep going all the way to the end of the ayah. Or I can read and stop here, and then I restart from the next word and pick it up to the end of the ayah. But I cannot stop, read one word and stop again. Okay. We talked about two more other types, like one of them is this one. This is a type of stop that we covered before. I want to show you the last one that we didn't get to see, and then I'll tell you what I believe should happen from now on. So more of these stops. This is another stop that we talked about. We said 50-50. You can either keep going or you can stop. It doesn't matter. There's actually a stop, like I said, that it's better to stop. And I still haven't seen an example for you. And there's another one that, there's two of them, one that is mandatory to stop and one that is mandatory not to stop. Sometimes you can also find them while you're reading the Quran. But for now, for us, I mean, it's not really a big deal. I don't think you should care about those things for now. We're just trying to read. So what I suggest is for you, now you know how to read almost everything in the Quran by yourself, is to practice. Try your best to read a page, if possible, of the Quran every other day at least, so that you keep those letters fresh and your eyes, are familiar with the letters, so that you can pick them up right away and you know exactly which letter you're going to pronounce, and also in combination with the accent, everything put together, the letter, the accent, shadda or no shadda, tanween or no tanween. With all that information, there's a lot of information that your brain is processing. So in the beginning, you're going to be reading slowly, but with practice, you're going to become faster and faster. Practice makes perfect. So you have to practice on your own for a little bit. I do not suggest that you listen to the Qur'an right now. You might think it's a good idea to listen to, one of the famous Qur'an and you follow with them. You can do that if you want. I think it's not going to help because all of them are reading with tajweed rules. And whenever you read with tajweed rules, some of the things will sound different than what we learned, because we are still with the basics. So I don't want you to be confused. I want you first to know your basics and to be good at them, so that when we go to the next level, which is with tajweed, you understand why and how things are done in tajweed. So I suggest either that if you have a spouse or a friend that already knows Arabic fluently, that you get together with them 3 times a week, read to them for 20 minutes each sitting. Practice like that, let them correct you, because you're definitely going to be making a lot of mistakes. If you're a person who has been following my videos, going through them on your own without any friends or any family members with you, you might think you're pronouncing things correctly. It's 99.9% you have several issues with your letters, because it's simply impossible for you to hear yourself and to know how the letters are actually being pronounced. If you already have somebody with you, you probably already know that, because they already told you that. So from now, what's going to happen is I'm going to suggest to you that in a few weeks, we're going to, inshallah, plan on having a class where you read and I'll listen to you and make sure that you're pronouncing correctly. So if you are interested in such class, please email me. Email me with your name. Also, if you prefer to have gender separate classes or not, I'll try to group you into different classes. Also, first, I'll probably have the first couple of classes as a screening class. Some of you might be faster than others, so we might have also different classes based on speed. And we'll have maybe two or three classes a week to listen to each one of you for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not more than that, just to make sure that you're on the right track. And after we do that for a few months, then inshallah you'll be ready to move on to the next class. But that's how the natural order of things should be. Alhamdulillah, it's great that you got to hear. This is our last video. I hope you benefited from it, and I hope you continue. Don't stop here. If you stop, you're going to lose everything you've done. Make sure you keep going, even if it's a little bit. And like the Prophet ﷺ said, the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the consistent ones, even if they are small. So make sure you keep doing them consistently. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.